Successful Management Styles of India, Volume 1, What is Different? The audiobooks, Chapter 7.5. So far, we have covered management in an Indian family-run business in Chapter 7, how I met Gordon, transparency problem, attracting talent and rewarding loyalty. 7.4, growth of the family-run business. 7.5, project management and operating company. I enjoyed the project team initially. Same Star Group has an operating company, Star Oil Refinery, and the story begins here between oil company and project company. Though the both companies are owned by same family house, they are operated with a different management style. In tandem, one operates by international style while other operates in Indian style, and vice versa, making it a bitter struggle or interesting tussle, as readers can imagine. Often, our managing director used to get vexed when both project and operating groups clash. He used to say, "It's my money at stake." For easy reference, I'll call the two groups project group and refinery group. Interestingly, I worked in both the groups, first in the project group and then in the refinery group. Readers would remember both these groups are separate companies registered with their own directors and managements, while stakeholders or owners are same. Some interesting features, like in any family, head of the family has to sometimes intervene so that the family unity and welfare is kept in mind. 7.6, empowerment. While some of us in project group planned and scheduled our meetings, operating group was looking for permission to attend the meetings and setting up schedules. One day, an interesting thing happened. I flew to London to attend an important meeting. I met one senior vice president, and his first question was, "How come project guys are present in this?" So that's the style of management. And when I talked to Gordon, he said, yeah, probably that is the style they operate. My colleagues from my operating group understood that I was empowered while they were not. Gordon was surprised to know empowerment is not favored by many CEOs in India. One of the main reasons for not empowering staff, as it erodes their power and reduces the control. It is customary to seek permission for a small action, even by senior managers. Thus, micromanagement and backseat driving is common in Indian corporate world. Of course, slowly is changing in IT sectors. IT companies took a big step in this direction. It's not uncommon to see youngsters taking over companies. One example is Nandan Nelakani, who has succeeded Mr. Narayan Murthy in Infosys as chairman. Subsequently, he handled one of the mammoth identification programs of government called Aadhaar. Please refer Aadhaar program, which is largest data program in India. This speaks volumes of empowerment he received from Mr. Narayan Murthy in Infosys. Several companies are in the same path, and yet the general reluctance to empower staff needs to change in India. 7.7 Accountability versus teamwork. Then accountability is often missing in Indian companies. I recall a crucial meeting where one senior member from operating company wrongly concluded one critical unit called sulfur recovery unit was not a priority for the construction group. Accordingly, the unit was rescheduled to be completed last. But during the next review meeting, we all realized the fallacy and the managing director had to reverse the decision. The whole episode resulted in delay of project by 3 months. However, for the reasons known to few, no one was made accountable for this mistake. While MD wanted to fix the responsibility for the person who mooted the wrong idea, there was general reluctance to own up the idea. I knew who initiated it, but by the time my turn came to speak, it was pretty obvious to me that accountability is not normally fixed in Indian managerial parlance. So MD asked formally, who is responsible for this wrong decision? And nobody answered, which is normal in many board meetings in India. I kept quiet, and the director next to me said, nobody. MD laughed and said, if nobody said, how did you remember it? It's not normal to forget a thing, but it's very difficult to remember something which is not told by anybody. Everybody laughed at MD's remarks, and axe did not fall on the senior vice president who did this blunder. Accountability was the casualty, and teamwork prevails in most of the Indian companies. And many would argue that teamwork would be affected if members are held responsible or accountable for their mistakes. That's a universal forgiveness is the common feature in Indian management. Covering mistakes is viewed as teamwork, and the leader is expected to take up the fault of the team members. He may cover it up, expose, or based on the relationship and the importance of the team member. Sometimes this leads to quieter and groups in the team, but the acceptable norm in Indian conditions. This reminds me a big Himalayan blunder done by Nehru in 1962 war. It is still not owned by the then ruling party. Of course, now the trend is reversing. But it is a taboo to derate the leader, and everybody keeps quiet. 1,000 years of foreign rule was tolerated by Indians without any harsh words to either Muslims or British for the loss incurred or the hurt they faced. Tolerance, non-violence, patience are feathers in the cap of Indians. Thus, the definition of responsibility and accountability are different in Indian context. In the project group, I was empowered to schedule my work, trips, meetings with clients, and in total responsibility for my job planning and resources were provided as per my request. My counterparts had to wait for a longer time and approvals for official tours and smaller decisions. Thus, there was a wide difference in empowerment between project group and operating company. 7.8 Contrast styles of succession plan. While empowerment was different or acceptable in project group, operating group had an interesting and opposite trend in the succession plan. So, while project group did not have succession plan, operating company had an elaborate succession plan, and each senior position was marked with succession plan, and many of the senior staff knew the career path of young and senior staffs. It was heartening to see an Indian company following international standards in succession plan. And Gordon had a plan for me, and as a result, after successful completion of the project, I was absorbed in technical department of operating company and head of design group till I retired. But the story is altogether different in the project group which I left. Gordon one day summoned to head office and was asked to give a realistic picture of the project. With tight budgets and cost overrunning, project delay was unavoidable. But the project director, not knowing the displeasure of owners, gave a realistic picture. That was the last I saw Gordon, and though the project was completed, Gordon was no more the project director. This is the story of Gordon, which ends here, and a successor to Gordon was appointed without a plan, and project work continued. And once the project is complete, the disaster happened, and the project group was wound up, while operating group performed very well due to this succession plan. And another important planning done by the operating group was they formed an organization called Refinery Operation Group, which accomplished the part left by project group, and the 2 billion project was completed in the budget. In fact, many of examples in Indian context where the succession plans were not effective, you can see them in even large companies. 7.9 Skill development. To match the size of the mega project, Star Oil stepped up staff recruitment, and getting competent staff was a problem faced by us. While senior staff were hired selectively from public sector and private sectors, competency of several junior staff has to be compromised. Thus, training and development to keep the project schedule became a higher priority. It was solved by hiring a Harvard graduate to look after the learning requirements, and they formed a Harvard Coffee Club. A monthly meeting was arranged for senior executives at Bombay office to discuss many management issues, including transparency, communication, motivation. A team was set up by Harvard graduate as chief learning officer. Irony is that while owners of the group are needed to follow up the policies of transparency and rule book, staff cannot be expected to follow. This topsy-turvy approach is prevalent in many sections of Indian society. While people at the helm of affairs don't follow the rules, they expect the lower rung of staff to follow that. Any corporation can earn the respect of public and government and shareholders if skills are focused at working level and the principles are followed at higher management. But if principles are taught to staff instead of skills, this is what happens in many organizations. Of course, Star Oil is not an exception. Coaching and mentoring. Coaching and mentoring was a regular daily affair, and experience of senior staff was very useful. Another good feature of Star Oil is a benevolent leader who is compassionate in training the staff. These are the common characteristics of traits of India, where education and coaching, which runs in the veins of Indians. Development and support. An in-house engineering design office was opened at Bombay, and all the staff were supported by project group, which I felt is a rare display of developing staff. And first time a group of engineers completed full off-sites unit and utilities design. It was a classic example of developing staff. The job was worth US dollars 200 million, which is completed by the in-house team. The 7.10 Rule book. Star Oil Company followed rule book in all fields except finance. Though I was not responsible for finance, I would like to comment on one issue. The cost overrun for project can be due to inefficiency or unforeseen emergencies, but the delay was the burden on indirect cost. We have experienced cost overrun and subsequent shortage of funds for the project to the tune of 500 million US dollars, which is 25% of the project cost. However, innovative approach followed by project team which helped successful completion of the project. 7.11 Innovative approach. While all oil companies in the world operated profit margin of $3 to $4 a barrel, Star Oil operated above $10 per barrel, which speaks volume of innovative approach in project design and operating company. The scheme of process units and the combination is designed such that the bottom of the barrel is utilized for making the fuels. Project group has shown innovative approach in project outlay and budget. A petrochemical project was planned initially, which was dropped later due to lack of resources. Thus, the shortage of funds was also overcome by phase 2 project, which has generated 2,000 crores, and it's was achieved by converting 2 million tons of crude unit as a redundant vacuum column is refurbished and used. A cost-saving approach was followed by opening an offshore purchasing company in Dubai. Local fabricators were developed, which reduced the cost of several items in the project. It was a unique feat of innovation in oil projects. Necessity is mother of invention, but Indian penchant for completion of projects with tight budgets is a story worth emulating. 7.12 Innovation and adaptation. Innovation and adaptation is an Indian trait which helped them to survive 1,000 years of foreign rule. In fact, many nations under foreign rule have adopted or transformed in far less time frame. But India was, with 1,000 years of culture and traditions, have taught the invaders a few things. Akbar the Great liked Indian mythology and many Muslim rulers patronized temples. This adaptation and adjustment was used by corporations prior to economic reforms, and as you can see, the many names since independence, the entrepreneurs like Tatas, Birlas, Bajaj, Godrej are the few names. After 1991, IT companies like TCS, Infosys and Wipro, Satyam, they paved the path to establish that India as a destination. IT services and IT service outsourcing contributed to growth engines. Subsequently, pharmacy companies also they achieved that. Thus, the chapter 7 is concluded, which described the management in an Indian family-run business. In volume 2, we want to cover some of the successful management companies like Tata's. Thank you. Signing off, author Rajsekhar Pola Pragada.